Right then, let's jump in with another tutorial. I've got my screencast keys now fixed. There's an update for that. We've got our screencast keys down there. We've got our epic pen if we need to show any workings. So let's dive straight in then. It's Piggy from Roblox on this one. So let's just hide our camera and light for now. I like to have wireframe. Don't need statistics or anything like that. That gives you a poly count, by the way, there, the statistics. So let's dive into Piggy. So we can use this cube then for the body. So let's put that to 1. Control A, all transforms. Should we just jump straight into the body then? Yeah, why not? So, just got my reference on my other monitor. Let's just adjust that. It's kind of a... Go across your x-axis, and you can, if you do that, if you go into edit mode, and you cross your x-axis, enable X there, you can move both sides. Right. You want see-through there if you want to grab them both. So let's just add a few loop cuts in here then. Divide this geometry up a bit. Adding some loop cuts. That'll do. And then we want to go, if you go to object mode, control A, all transforms, you'll set all your transforms back then. Let's just go into sculpt mode. I know it's low res, but let's grab our smooth, knock the strength to about 0.35, F to resize your brush, shift. Let's just smooth this cube so it's a bit more. And then G for your grab. Let's just shape this a bit. Try and get basic shape to start with. Of the clothes. Now remember, click see through if you want to go all the way through. I'm just working on the basic shape of the clothes. It's like a, I don't know, I think my kid told me it's a cross between a couple of characters or something. Piggies. Something like Peppa Pig and some other game on Roblox, I can't remember now. Neighbour game or something like that. Anyway. Just trying to see what character, but my kid's been mad on it for years. Piggy. Let's just shape some cloth here. Keep it low res for now. Just tapping smooth, and then we'll need to shape these a bit. And we're going to be modelling, rigging, and animating this character. We'll do a bit of attack animation. I was thinking. Just get a basic shaping to start with. Basic sort of clothes. Not really any good for... I'm just tapping draw sharp there. I was going to say it's not really any good unless you got higher res, but you can just get the basic shaping and we'll break the silhouette up a bit. So that can be the basic body for now. We'll just tweak the proportions a bit. Just maybe bring these up a bit. Let's control S to save, desktop. Piggy. Let's go to add mesh. UV sphere. Move this up. Try and get the head in there now. So maybe that body was a bit smaller. Let's just try the head first. And we're not going to be I don't think we're going to go with cutting geometry in and that like on other tutorials. We're going to try and keep this simple, this model. It's pretty much just a cylinder, the head. It's quite big by the looks of it. Let's just move those clothes back here a bit. Shift. Just tap smooth on them. Alt Q to choose the other mesh. Just try and get the proportions in there. Cult mode. And we've got, because we scaled that, go to Control A, all transforms. Control A, all transforms, and you won't get your error message in the bottom. X. Pretty much. So I'm just going between the body and the head here. You're going to have arms coming out there. Alt Q for that. Like I say, we'll keep this simple. We'll just so it's not a perfect sphere, we'll just tweak it a bit there. Then we're going to go to Add Mesh. I'm thinking a cylinder. Scale this cylinder. Bring it up here. Rotate it 90. And this can be the nose. So I just googled Piggy Roblox, the reference. Don't really want to show it because I don't want any copyright issues. It's on my other monitor. Is how I work. I'll put the reference on my other monitor and look across. I think what we'll do here is go to Edit Mode, Face Mode, and just inset that a little bit. It's not quite as linear. Let's just add a loop cut in there. Scale this a bit. Pretty much not dead middle, but it doesn't really need to be as big. If this was for a game, you'd keep this geometry nice and clean. You've probably seen in my other tutorials, you use M to weld, and you weld the vertices together, but I want to keep this one more simple shapes. Then it looks like it's got some holes in the nose. So what we could do, we could Shift D, duplicate that, bring it out, just to create these nose breathe holes. We'll go to, let's close that for now. Generate a mirror modifier, use the nose, and we got it both sides. I'm thinking, could we generate a boolean? Choose that, and then hide the boolean. Then we got our nose there, haven't we? That'll look better when we got the materials on. So that can be the simple nose. We'll tweak that a little bit. We need some eyes now. So we need eyes and ears. Let's add mesh. Let's add another cylinder. Bring that up to there. Scale it. Just keeping it nice and simple for this. That's what you want to do in 3D. I'm really guilty. I am of complicating things over the years. and overthinking it. I've now realised it's not perfect. Try not to worry about it so much. I know we all aim for perfection, but I'll to let it go a bit. I think we'll let's grab that face and inset it a bit as well again. We might add a bevel modifier to that. I mean, we're on 10 minutes already. Just crazy how fast the time goes. So if you go in local mode, you'll be able to move it like along the normals. And let's just let's get the basic eye in there, which will tweak a bit. I'm not sure if it's more of a, let me just look at the reference and zoom in. Is it more of a sphere? I think it's more of a sphere, you know that. So let's keep that in the place because it was quite, and go to add mesh UV sphere. Rotate that 90. So a sphere I think was better for the eye. So you should name them as you go, really. Rotate that there a bit and that there. And bring it in. So maybe a sphere works better. Generate mirror modifier, select the head. And you got the two eyes. So we'll do a bit of tweaking on them eyes. That's the basic, that's for the very basics of it in there. Far from perfect. We need some ears now. I'm thinking, we do for the ears, add mesh cube. Actually, when you go to add mesh cube, can't really see the option for, there's only a location option there. Usually sometimes you can choose how many cuts you want, but it's no big deal, you can just cut them in with your loop cut. I think what we could do to that, could we add a subdivision surface? Remember to right click and shade smooth as well on these meshes. Not sure on the boolean, it could be okay. Shade smooth. Delete on your numpad just to zoom in. Let's go into sculpt mode. We haven't got tons of resolution on this. Actually, before that, we'll scale him a bit. So these ears are thinner. Into sculpt mode. Just shape these ears. They're like round. More sort of round. But because we never had see-through on, we missed the back of that. We can do a bit of tweaking on that. Just tap in smooth. Tap smooth. Bring it in a bit here. We'll have to inflate around here, so it's gone a bit thin. So I'm not sure if a cube was the best option. They are quite round, these ears. But can do a bit of tweaking on that in a bit. Let's just get the basic shapes in there. So that goes up there. Just adjust this reference and have a look. Obviously too big. Bring that down. Maybe rotate that a bit there. Bring that down. Scale it a bit. They're kind of like in line with the eyes, really. Into Control S to save, into sculpt mode. Shape these ears a bit. Using a grab brush and smooth. Shift. We could increase the subdiv to 2, give us a bit more geo. And tap smooth. We need to shape them ears a bit better. I think we'll keep that as 1 for now. Tapping smooth to create more volume around the sides, so it's more uniform. Scale a bit. Move that down. Back into sculpt mode. We'll get this right in a minute. Just make them more round. They're still not round enough. But Alt Q. Just move this head a bit. Let's go into that and generate mirror modifier. And choose that. So that's the very basics of it, which we need to tweak. Them ears are too thin. We're going to have to scale them a bit. We've got to tweak that. Now we need the arms. So let's go to add mesh. Let's add a cylinder. That's a bit too big. Let's try 0.5. Let's just go with that for now. Move that to there. We can just scale it. You can have a baseball bat as well, so what we'll do, we'll Shift D that. We'll use that as a base for the baseball bat. Let's try and look at these arms. I'll try and keep it simple. Don't really want fingers in there. I just want to tweak these proportions because it's annoying me. I think the nose is a bit bigger. I think the eyes will be a bit bigger. There's actually kind of a second eye in there which you'll have to add, like a red. Let's just make the bottom this a bit bigger. We'll have to add some more geometry as well to that. These arms are the important ones to start. So let's have a look. Need to keep this simple on these arms. I'm thinking, because we need a thumb, I'm thinking that the cube could be best. This arm. And then we can extrude a few of the faces, can't we then? Let's go into edit mode. Add a few loop cuts. Just trying to think how many we'd need. I'm going to sculpt mode, and because you get that area you should Control A before. Let's just smooth out so it's less cube like. And then let's assess where what we can do for this thumb. Could we maybe Control S to save to start? Could we maybe grab these two, extrude that out, bring that down there and rotate it a bit. Then we could maybe grab them three and extrude that out. I think we'll keep it puppet like we did on the beginning Blender course. We'll try and keep the hands simple, keep it more puppet like. If we're now going to, we have to add a few more cuts here, so we've got a bit more geo to play with. So we need to bend them. We'll go back into sculpt mode. Always forget to do that. Control A, all transforms. You won't get the error then. And shift. Tap smooth. I think we could probably do with a bit more geo in there. I cut a couple of more loops in. Tapping smooth. Just moving things around. Tap smooth there. It's not perfect though. Maybe we should have extruded all four faces, but we'll go with it for now. It's not going into a game engine or nothing. Let's just shape this a little bit. And actually, what you want to do really is go into edit mode. See through. Grab these vertices here, shift S, cursor to selected, into object mode, set origin to 3D cursor, and you're pivoting your arm. There. We've got to clean up all these names. So that's what I'm going to do soon. I'm going to get this arm basically into a very basic location. Let's get the proportions. At least in the ballpark. We need to obviously do some more work on that arm. Seems to me like these, it inserts a little bit like a Lego arm. Looks like it inserts. So we can cut in another edge loop there and just shape it. And you've obviously got your objects got the wrong transforms. So we need to shape that arm because it's a mess. And it definitely needs to come down a little bit and in. Control S to save. Just mess it out with this arm a bit. That cylinder's in the way, it's annoying me. Sculpt mode. Tapping smooth. The hands needs to obviously be bigger. You're going to have to rig up that thumb there. We need to tweak that arm. What we will do, we'll add a generate mirror modifier. Choose that. We've got our arm there. And that's the very basic Piggy model, which we obviously need to tweak a bit. So let's just have a little look at the proportions. It doesn't seem too bad. These are a bit big. Scale them down a bit. Eyes, I think, should wrap onto there a bit more. Probably go up a little bit. Come out. Nose. I think you rotate that 180. Or, oh, sorry, wrong. I think maybe that them nostrils may be in the wrong place. We'll check that, because I might need to be more in the middle. Nostrils. If we grab our boolean, you should name that bull. Move that up. The nostrils are more middle. Into sculpt mode, let's just tweak this clothing up a bit here. It kind of goes in out, shake it all about. Lead that onto the floor. Don't think there's any feet. Obviously his feet, but they're hidden by the clothes, so we'll keep that simple. All cue there, just tweak the head a little bit, just so it's not quite as cylindrical. Bring that back, bring the head down, hold cue, bring the clothing up a bit. Check from the other views. We need to add some geometry to sculpting a bit of the cloth. So you can use like draw sharp for now. Just to get, if you control or draw sharp, it'll go outwards. Let's just check these proportions again. That's not too bad. I think the body's a little bit, maybe a touch too small still. We should scale that up a little bit. And then bring the arms up a bit. Arms are probably a bit too big. We need to get a basic base. Control S to save, edit mode. Let's cut in a couple of loops here. Then go to face. Inset that face. Bring that down a touch. See-through mode. Vertex. Just create a basic baseball bat. We'll do an attack animation with this bat. Select loops, edge loops. Bring that up a bit there. And then maybe insert another loop there. Just scale it a touch. Then we could maybe, where are we? Inset face. Something like that for the baseball bat. We'll probably do with a insetting that face as well. Bringing it up a touch. And the baseball bat. These arms definitely need to be a bit bigger. Rotate that. Holding the baseball bat. Which is quite big in relation to the character, really. We'll tweak that baseball bat a bit. So that's the very basic structure of Piggy. Here's the basic model. Just checking the reference. Let's just see if that's everything. It is, apart from Would we maybe... Let's just add another sphere for now. And just move it into basic place. And we could have duplicated that sphere really, but sphere. Just that there's a mirror modifier on it. I didn't want to apply the mirror modifier just yet. It looks like there's a red bit on the eye and like a second eye in there. Which we can create some add a bit of emission to that. Alright, that one. There's like a second eye. Just get it in the ballpark. Something like that. Maybe a bit bigger. That's the very basic shape, proportions and structure of Piggy. Let's just check. So yeah, you got the head shape there, sphere, the ears. Little red eye. We can add probably painting a little rosy cheek here. Doesn't seem to have a mouth. Got the nostrils. There's the arms, which need a bit of work. And the clothes. And there's the baseball bat. I think that's the basic structure. So what I'll do now, I'll do a bit of proportion tweaking. Do a bit of clean up on these names and do a bit of tweaking on the meshes, and I'll come back and I'll tell you what I've done. Right, so I'm back on then. I've done the tweaking to this character. So what did I do? Well, let's start here. I've renamed this folder Piggy. I Control A on all of the meshes. You go Control A. And you can get all transforms to deltas, which maintains your pivot point, as I explained before. A nice clean values in a folder. Put the cameras and lights into a folder and just turn that off. Main things on the mesh. Well, let's isolate that. What I've done, I added a multi-res modifier. You can just go to add, generate, multi-resolution. You turn that off. Just a nice low res. You can turn it off like that to animate. And you can still tweak it at that level and it'll translate to the higher levels. If you turn that back on, you just click subdivide there and it gives you more resolution. And what you can do, what I've done, I went into sculpt mode. And you can see, nice clean geo. But if you turn that off, see, it's low res. Turn it on, we divided it a couple of times and I just went in with a crease sharp and draw sharp. F to resize your brush. If you hold control, you'll dig inwards. Sorry, that's draw sharp. If you hold control, you go inwards. Sorry, to dig outwards, you hold control and you can dig out. See? So, crease sharp. You're just digging inwards there, and I've created just like a subtle, holding control. I just created a subtle C curve, for example. So crease sharp, hold control to dig out, or just use it normally to dig in. If you look closely, I've dug in. I've created like a subtle C and S curves on the clothes. You can tap smooth, just to, so it's not as sort of intense, smooth it out a bit. I've created just a little, with the draw brush. There, I've just created a little indent where the head sits. Shift to smooth. Went around, just tweak the silhouette. Just with F to resize and G, grab. That's how I sculpted the clothes with that multi-resolution modifier. Added a few more extrusions on the baseball bat. The arms, I've put them into an A pose. Now, I forgot, unlike the Lego character we done, which was just down here, and I said that was hugging the body. That's correct. who wasn't rigging that character properly. You're going to be setting up a full rig on this. So you either want an A pose, it's known as, or a T pose, and you're setting up for rigging. So I'll put it into an A pose on the arms. So I'll be able to rig that nicely now. Make sure when you do these arms, you add some geometry with your loop cuts. So you got more resolution around the hand and thumb. And then when you add the bones, you'll be able to bend it in. If you haven't got enough geometry on the arms, you won't be able to bend it properly when it's holding the baseball bat. So the arms were quite simple, all I've done. Nothing complex, I just into sculpt mode. G brush, grab, moved it about, smoothed it in places. As I say, I added more geo. Basically just moved it about, the grab brush. Smoothed it in places, and I used draw there with control just to push it in a bit. Inflate just to add a bit more volume onto the hands there and the thumb. Inflate, and then sort of just tweaked it there so it looks like there's a muscle going in. That was all. And this arm, if you're going to see-through mode, it's going inwards, just we'll rig all that. So that was the arm. What did I do on the, what else did I do? Just tweak the ears. Just give them a bit more volume if you look. Again, you can go to inflate. And just add a bit more volume on the ears. Subtle, very subtle curve sort of on the ear. Tweak the eyes and the proportions of the head. So that was everything really, nothing complex. And remember, keep your geo nice and clean, stick to like quads, nice clean geometry. I've seen so many people over the years and the geometry's all over the place, like just nasty triangles, cuts here, and you want to aim for nice clean geometry. Really. I mean, if you're doing like a sculpt that, if you like remeshing and sculpting and just having it as a still render, then it doesn't matter so much, but I like to have nice clean geometry. I mean, there's a few cuts, but that's because of the boolean, doesn't matter about that. And one thing I forgot to do is we need to just turn off that boolean in both the camera and the render. We don't really want that boolean. We'll keep it there. What we need to do now is start looking into adding materials to this little pig. I'll probably still do a bit of tweaking before rigging on the clothes. That looks like it's pulling in a bit, but we haven't got our modifier on. No. But yeah, that's the structure in place really for Piggy. So let's add these basic materials in, I think now. So what we'll do, we'll close Epic Pen down. We'll just check all the values and nice and clean. Baseball bat. Let's just control how all transforms to delta. We may adjust the pivot to down here. We're probably going to constrain this bat though. Let's just check these values. Yep, nice and clean. If you move these eyes, you'll notice that this inner eye moves. It's because I've parented the red eye. There's your eyes, the parent, and your child is the red eye. And you just do that. Hopefully you'll know by now, by my other tutorials, just by Control P. Obviously that and keep transform, but I don't need to do that again. So let's get those materials in there then. So I like to just have a look at what I've got and minus them. I like to work cleanly, I do. And minus any materials you've got on there. Just in your little material properties here. So let's grab this head. Let's go to new. Call that head. It's a pinky colour, isn't it? Remember to go into your colour there. It's sort of a light pink. Really. We'll tweak it to get it exactly right. But that's the head. What we can actually do, we'll call that skin, actually. And we can select them areas and assign skin to that. And then you go to clean up, purge unused data, or clean up your scene. Remember to go to external data, automatically pack resources, because that will save any textures. And one thing I will just point out, in my last tutorial when we painted the Lego avatar, I think I did miss that. When you go into texture paint, you'll need to, and you're in your image editor, paint, and you've assigned, you need to always go to image and save all images. Just be sure of that. When you've painted a texture, you need to save all images. I'm just going off piece a bit there. Just cause I think that's nagging me that I never pointed that out. Let's go to eye. That's like a pretty black, isn't it? Don't have it dead black. And you've got, just click in new. Eye red. You could get a nice bit of a little bit of emission on that eye. Look nice. New. Nose. We can grab our pipette and have that. Never quite grabs it, so you can go to copy and grab that nose and paste the value to get it the same. Let's just look at this. Edit. We can't, because we got our boolean. I think what we're going to have to do there is we need to change the faces there. Because if you look, you can't really see the nose. Need a different bit of shading on that nostril, don't we? If we go to plus new, go to nose, nostril. You can paste that value, then just make it a bit darker. Maybe change the saturation a touch. But to get at that face, I think we're going to have to go to our modifiers. Let's apply this boolean modifier. We've applied it now. So we don't actually need that, but let's just keep it for now. Back into material. You need to select the faces now. If you hold Alt, you'll select the loop. Then go to assign new material. So Alt, nostril, assign. Tap Alt, assign. So if you notice what I'm doing, I'm selecting the loop, then going to the edge, holding Alt. I'll select the face, hold Alt, then tap the end, you'll be able to select the whole loop. And is that nostril not quite shade smooth? That's destroying it a bit, shading smooth. Edit mode. Is that colour not? It just wasn't quite, needed to be darker, didn't it, to see a difference? Sign. You can see from an angle, can't you? We may need to just we'll just scale that there so you can see better. Bear with me, there's someone at the door, back in a sec. Right, apologies. The postman was at the door. Needed a signature for something. So now we've scaled that in, we can see better, can't we? We can see the nostril more, but the back needs to be, really the back of that needs to be the same. It's forward slash to isolate that. And can we grab that face there? Yep, we can. We can grab that face at the back. So, forward slash. Now we can see the nostrils now properly, can't we? And we may, because we've got this jaggedness here, the problem is if we shade, if we add the boolean, there's not a lot of geometry, so if you go to shade smooth, you're going to get some funny shading on there. We'll undo that, we'll leave that for now. We might add a few supporting edges around. We're going to modifiers, we could generate a bevel. Not sure if that's gonna dial that up. Could have probably done with some supporting edges first. We'll leave that, we'll tidy that up in a bit. We'll just add a couple of little cuts in there. Some supporting edges and see what we can do with that in a bit. Because of that boolean, that's a little bit messy there. That's no big deal. I mean, from a distance, you're not really going to see this in here. It's only really that inner bit. If you right click and shade smooth, because we haven't got much geo here to support. And we will actually just tweak that a little bit. It's maybe there. See what that gives. But let's keep we're going off piece a bit here, aren't we? We need to add, go back to our material. We can add the skin on that, can't we? Then we want new on that. All that bat. It's like a brownish colour, isn't it? Try something like that. And in the clothes, new. Clothes. Like a reddish colour, isn't it? Pretty much red. We don't want it the same as the eye. I think that'll do for now. That's the basic structure of Piggy with the materials added then. I'm wondering if we should just paint in a little rosy cheek there. Let's Control S to save and have a little swig of tea. We may need to unwrap really to add. Let's just try texture paint. We haven't really got much geometry, have we, on it? I'm not sure we'll be able to really. I say we got a missing texture. We need to unwrap. So add a little. We just unwrap it then while we're at it. Let's go into edit mode. / to solo it. Let's just grab, select loops, edge loops, right click, mark seam, go to the top, select loops, edge loops, right click and mark seam. And we're not really going to see the back. We can just cut in, select these loops here, right click, mark seam. Interface mode, A to select all, U to unwrap, unwrap with a minimum stretch. If you go to UV editing, there's your unwrapped head there. We'll go back to layout, /. Now you need to go into shading, copy that value, Shift A, texture, image texture. First of all, new 4096 by 4096. Piggy head. Paste. Return. New image. Plug the spaghetti in. Back out. Now if we go to texture paint now, you can paint on it, look. We've got an image texture. Let's just go to paint hard, maybe. Get sort of pinky red. Now we got Alex on. It's somewhere, maybe there, a bit bigger maybe, something like that. Rosy cheeks. Is that a bit too big? Let's go for that. Just a little rosy cheeky now, add a bit of visual interest to it. And like I said, I think I've got a feeling I forgot to show this in the last lecture. If you go to, you can do it in image editor or UV editor. If you go to image, save all images, you'll save that as a texture map. So you got Piggy head.png. And if you go to file, clean up and delete anything there. But if you go to external data pack resources, it'll save that texture into the file for you. So yeah, we've added a nice little rosy cheek. Let's grab this bat, shade smooth. So that's the materials added to Piggy. We can do any little final tweaks we need. And then next up, let's start rigging Piggy. Add a bone structure to it so we can animate it. So I'll do a few little tweaks. Come back, tell you what I've done. I don't think there's much to do, to be fair, really, but I'll double check. Then we can start the rigging process. Also, I've just spent a couple of minutes doing a couple of things. I've just adjusted the pivot point on this baseball bat, so it pivots down there instead of there. And I've just, if you go into materials, knock off our wireframe, I've adjusted the roughness on this there to 0.8. It's more cloth-like. And the eyes, I've decreased the roughness to 0.3, so there's some shine. Then on the red, 0.1, it's really shining. And what we'll probably do, we'll probably add some. We'll do that now. We'll copy that value, paste it into Emission. Then we could maybe have that pulsing a little bit, couldn't we? The emission on this eye. So if we just 0.2 for now. That's got a bit of light and a bit of shininess on the eye. I think what we're ready to do now then is start this rigging process. So I like to go into grey mode and have my wireframe on. Got a nice clean geo. Not sure how it's going to behave yet. But before you do start rigging, you might want to just tweak a few little things, tweak the silhouette a bit, things like that. A little bit of tweaking here and there. And then you want to unparent anything before rigging. So there's your eyes. You want to grab that. Go to Alt P. Clear parents and keep transform. You don't want any parenting before rigging. And then Control A, all transforms to deltas. You want all clean values on these. Before you start rigging. And we'll move, I think we'll just move. Oh, we'll hide that baseball bat for now. We don't need that. If you go to Shift S, I like the cursor to be with the origin there. So actually, we'll just go to Control A and all transforms there. So we've got our pivot at the bottom. So that should be ready for rigging now. We'll save that as Piggy 2. It's best to do that file save incremental in case you've got errors and you have to go back to a previous file. We're getting the habit of that as well. So yeah, there's our materials. Into grey mode. I believe that everything's ready for rigging. So we'll go to add armature, rigify meta rigs, basic. Go for a basic human. So we've added our basic human. Go into the running man, viewport display, in front, and you'll see your rig there. So I like to name it Piggy rig. We'll actually be generating controls from that, so we'll call that Piggy meta rig. So there's our rig. What we can do now, we can scale this rig up here. Just trying to think about the underlying skeleton, where the legs are going to bend and stuff. So we're not really going to see a lot of leg bending on this. If it did bend, it'd sort of, there's the torso to there, isn't it? It'd be somewhere along the lines of that, wouldn't it? For example. So you're thinking about the skeleton underneath. You want to start moving Also remember on rigs, Control A, all transforms as well, clean values. If you go to edit mode, hit X, you can start moving this about now. Let's just move our rig about. I'll tell you what you want to be, what you do want to do is double check when you've added this rig that you're facing the right way. So yeah, that leg's bending there. This is all stuff in 3D you've always got to be aware of, because it will cause problems later down the line if you don't do it properly. So that leg, that rig is facing this way. So when we started modelling our character, we're facing the wrong way there. So what we can do, hide that meta rig. Let's grab everything. Let's see if it all rotates together. Yeah, we're okay. I want to rotate everything to 180. So type it all in there. 180. And all these little problems come back to bite you if you don't do it properly in the first place. I double check everything. Be sure you go to Control A, all transforms, here at 0. Select you. Now you're facing the right way now, so your character's facing. You look at your axis. Character's facing forward Y. Your rigs forward Y. But when you go into an engine, game engine, I'm working for a company at the minute doing some bit of freelance, and this is not wide said. You just have to be wary of things like that. Different axes for different game engines, but that doesn't matter. We're just in Blender. So we've got our rig nice there. In edit mode, you want to start moving this rig about now. Make sure you grab over both of these. On some of these, if you only grab the one ball, sometimes it comes apart. I think that's more the advanced rig. And generally you want to go over both of them. But I think this basic rig, you're alright. So yeah, let's grab that. Grab everything on this leg here. We've got X on. We can just move this now. Say to there. Start moving your rig around. I believe. So yeah, so I told you. If you move that one ball, it's going to destroy your mirror. You want to move all of them together. That's when you select over it like that to move them all. That's you. That's not too bad there. Bring that to there. Bring that out to the toe. And be sure to have your, like I say, have your X on there, so you're doing it both sides. That's generally for a foot roll, so obviously there's your leg, there's your foot, and that rolls the foot up. That does. But obviously for this character, everything's covered. We still want to mimic the structure a bit, really. Just keep moving your rig around. Let's just pretend she's got big feet. Which, as I say, you're not going to see. So, obviously all this needs moving up. There's your spine there. So you've got your pelvis. Maybe bring that down a bit. These are your spine controls, so you can get some bend in your spine and set them up pretty much as a spine would be on a human. I believe that spine 6 is the head. I remember right from all them characters I rigged on Eden. There's the head. Spine 5 is your neck. Which, not really going to see the neck. So we're just moving these joints around. I believe that's the shoulder. You can move that up to the shoulder. Move that out a bit so it's more straight. That's your, we'll grab all 3 of them. We'll move that to the you got your shoulder which attaches to your upper arm. Somewhere there. Hand is going to be there, let's just rub that out. And we're going to have to modify this rig, unfortunately. You can't use just the default basic human because we need some bend on this hand. If you remember hopefully you've viewed my beginning blender where we rigged up the cop and robber. You'll remember we modified the rig a little bit in that. So let's see, we've got our upper arm, lower arm, then the hand is going to bend around there. Leave a little bend in your arm, the same with the leg. Some people add a bend to the spine. You don't have to keep it straight. It's going to be somewhere there. There, that's your shoulder. Then you've got breathe controls, which are pretty cool. So that's your breast bones. And they can be used to scale a bit to get a bit of breathing in there if you're doing an idle. Control S to save. Then go around and double check that that's sort of correct. You got the bones placed correctly to mimic a human skeleton sort of thing. That's pretty much what it is underneath. Your legs, upper and lower, feet, pelvis, your spine, arms, head, neck there, shoulder. That's the kind of structure you need. But also remember to check it from all views. You want it to be inside your mesh. Shoulder there. Pelvis might be down a bit. And your spine bones. And generally you'll want the transition to be on a loop cut. That's how you get the good deformation. It's not imperative, but just in general kind of thing. So just go around and set up your skeleton system. Control S to save. And then what we need to do is modify this hand. So we've got a way of bending this hand. So you can grab the baseball bat. So we need to modify this rig a bit now. So we'll do that next. So let's look into doing a bit of rig modification then. So I think what we'll want for that, go into normal, and you'll move the bone. When you generate this rigify rig, Blender needs to see certain bones. You'll need to have this hand bone. So that will bend and move the hand if you need to. So what we need to do is, I don't know if I've changed it in Blender 5. No, it's still the same. You want to go down to your rigify there, samples, and you can add bones. So I believe that, is it a basic copy chain? If you add a sample, you'll get another chain of bones there. And that's generally the one that I use a lot. Seems to work well. A basic copy chain. And a basic raw copy. We've added a basic copy chain. What we can do, we'll rotate that. And we'll move it to there. We're in edit mode. Let's just move that as if it's like a hand joint. So we can go, that can go up there. Select these three up to there. By adding that chain, keep it relatively straight. Always bring the end bit out of the mesh a touch. You can go F2. What side are we on? You want the dot L so you can mirror it. So you can go hand dot O1.L, Control A, Control C, F2 paste, change that to 2, F2 paste, change that to 3. So there's your 3 hand bones, which will be able to bend the grab. But we also need, add another sample, bring this up here, rotate it. Best to work in normal when you're in bones. We need the thumb, don't we? Right, let's move that into place. But really, it's just probably that bit there. And the geo's not perfect there. We might need to tweak that. Straighten that geo out just there before we bind it. But we will probably do that. Bring that out a bit. That to there. This can join onto that there. Check all the views so you haven't got it right in that view, have you? That's the thing with 3D, you gotta check all your views. Let's have a swig of water. Sweet tea's gone old. But yeah, moving them about. Look from the top. Seems to be okay. And again, go in and go F2 thumb.01.L Control A, Control C, F2, paste, change that to 02, F2, paste, change that to 03. Then these bones we added need to be parented. Now grab that hand last, Control P, keep offset. Now you've parented these bones now to that hand. If you go into pose mode, you'll see that when you rotate the hand, fingers move, which is what you want. And then back in edit mode, just double check you in pose mode, go into local, and just have a look how these bones are rotating. So that's on axis, that is. Notice that the axis isn't in between your Z and your X. You can sometimes rig and be off axis, and that causes problems. You won't get clean animation then. You want to, as I say, in edit mode, just check that. And if it's off axis, you can use this roll here to roll the bone. That looks pretty much on axis to me. That, yeah, X. It's not bad. You want it to be nicely lined up. So you can just roll it a touch if you need to. That's a good little tip for you there. Roll the bone to keep it on axis. Usually on the arms, you get problems with things being off axis. It causes gimbal lock, which can be annoying. So we've added our samples here, haven't we? But we've only got it on one side. So let's select these and go to Armature, Symmetrize, and now we've got it on the other side as well. And it's even named it to .r. I mean, you've got to love Blender, haven't you? I've worked with 3D software for 20 years, and Blender is by far the best in my opinion. So yeah, we've got our rig all set up. No values on it. Then just before you bind it, like I say, that geometry's not gonna, you got your edge loop there and that there, so it's not gonna bend perfectly. So before you do bind, go into your geometry. Make sure your X is on, so you do the other side. Just tweak any geo, it's a bit more cleaner and it'll bend better. It's more straight. So on this hand, that should bend, not too bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but you're just moving these edge loops, so it gives us more of a chance. Let me bend that thumb. And what we can do is remember to Control S to save every few minutes. We'll go into edit mode and we'll add another loop there. Maybe add a loop cut in there as well. It looks like that. Should deform not too bad. Do we need an edge loop in there just to be sure? That should be okay. If you go to statistics, you're only at just under 8,000 polys. That's superb, really. Obviously, with your modifier on of your multi-res, you're at more. That's going to be in the render stage where you do that. When you're animating, you'll turn that off. You got more RAM available. So that's not too bad at all. And as I say, before you bind, just double check everything's sort of all your geo's nice and ready to be binded. Just once you've binded, that's it. That looks pretty good to me. That's our rig set up, and we've added our samples to modify it. So next up, we can generate the rig. I think there we'll just we'll go into draw, hold control with X on, and we'll just give that a little bit of an inner. It's going inwards a bit, just in the middle. Saying that, we've got our feet, haven't we, there? So have it subtler, just smooth that, tap smooth. Right, so yeah, we're ready to rock on generating this rig then. So let's generate then. So first of all, make sure that all your modifiers are applied. Doesn't matter so much about the subdivision, but apply your mirror modifiers. Apply. Multi-res, we don't need to apply that. Generally your mirror modifiers you want to apply. Yep, we're okay, I think that's everything. So what we can do, we can grab this rig, come down to this running man here, and click Generate Rig. And Blender has generated for us the rig system. And back in the day we had to do all this ourselves. We had to paint foot rolls and create foot roll controls, all the controls, everything. And now with that Rigify in Blender, it's done for us, which is amazing. Click in front again, and you'll see all your controls that have been generated. If you move that there, look at all them controls for free. Superb. You'll be wondering, oh, why is the character not moving? What you have to do is, that was the meta rig. You can actually hide that meta rig now. And there's our Piggy rig. Just name it Piggy rig. That's a generated one. The Rigify. What you need to do is now select all your meshes. You don't have to do it all at once, but you can assign them one at a time if you want, but I prefer to do that. Select all your meshes, then select your Piggy rig last. Go to Control P and go to with automatic weights. And now all your meshes are binded to your Piggy rig. And you can see that there. Remember your child-parent relationship. There's your parent, your Piggy rig. And there's all the children, the meshes. And to test that that worked, there's always clean up to do. It's never perfect. You have to go in and paint whites now. But if you move these controls about, you'll see that the meshes are indeed binded to our control rig. Scale there, breathing. It generates a lot of controls you don't generally need, so you can go into your running man, hide stuff and create new collections, and we'll go into that. When you move this, you might say, well, what about the hand? You move that, your hands are in place. That's because of the FK-IK. The hands are set to IK there. Which is good when you're grabbing stuff, but I like to work in FK personally. If you go into your item, you've got properties panel that's been created now in item. And this properties panel is where you control stuff on your rig. So used to be a hell of a lot of hard work creating FK-IK switches and constraints, so yeah, bone constraints stuff, but now all you got to do is just go into press 1 on that and 1 on that. Now you've switched from IK to FK. So your arms are now in forward kinematics instead of inverse, just by clicking that one. So what we need to do now is we need to go in and check out the deformations. Look, and start painting weights. So that's bending. It's slightly off axis there on the forward kinematics, and that can happen. You can tweak that as well. It's bending nicely. Bend your spine like that. So we go in and we paint the weights, and you can do things like, I like to have head follow on. I think it's 1 and 1. When you bend the spine there, the head's following. You've got your head there. Obviously we need to paint some weights where the head's controlled better. But that's how you set up your rig in Blender. What we'll do next, we'll go in and we'll start painting the weights on this character so it deforms a bit better. And that's like where you have a foot, that is. But obviously that's all covered by a simple cloth. You can see that it's mimicking like a leg that would bend inside a dress. And generally all the characters I've animated, 99% of the time, I use IK legs and FK arms. But you can do FK-IK switching between the two, you might, if you're picking something up, for example. But that's more in-depth stuff. But Everything's looking good, so let's go in and paint some whites. If we go into pose mode, you'll notice it's still slightly off axis there. And the reason for that is really I was rushing. It's best to stick to a T pose and keep everything smack on 90 degrees there. Even though the meta rig is pretty much orthographic, you still get some slight issues. You'll see them bones are slightly off. You can go into edit mode there and you can roll these bones, get it back to straight, which I'm not going to do all that now. Remember to enable your X, but you can roll them, roll both sides to get it back straight, but it will move your mesh a little bit. But what you can do in pose mode, I believe, you go to Control A, you can apply that as a rest pose and it'll set it back to 0 there. So if you want it smack on axis, you can just roll your bones. So that X should be kind of like there. It's slightly off. Which, as I say, it's one of them things that happens. If you look at the meta rig, you've got it straight. It's not perfectly straight, is it? You can see like a plane there. It needs to be absolutely smack on. It's something we can work with. It's no issue. Everything's going to animate fine. So the main thing then we want to do now is paint these whites. So if we go to this, select your rig, you want deform bones there. See, it's got deform. You want to work with deform bones in your bone collections. And you'll select your rig, select your mesh, white paint, enable X. If you click the bone, you'll see what's influencing. So you can set your white to whatever you want it to. White to 1 strength down there. And just paint those whites in a little bit more there. Just so that bone runs down to there. And let's look at your an automatic white pretty much works as you want it to. The influencing the bones you want. So you just have to paint the influence in and out on things you don't want influenced. So that bone there, we want to influence just around there. And go to whites, smooth. Just click this bone. And we pretty much want that bone just influencing that part of the mesh, not all the way down here. So what we do, white 0, strength 1. Remember to Control Shift click, select your bones, and also select them in your vertex groups here. So select that bone. 0 white, let's paint out what we don't want. Paint this out. And the main influence areas like the green and red. And you can go into your modifiers and you can turn off. You go into your mesh. Have we got? No, we haven't got a. I think it's on the. Have we got a subdivision? Oh, yes, see, we got a multi-res on that. You can turn that off if you want. But generally, I'll just keep it on these days. So, white paint. Let's go around and see what we've got. Use your whites, smooth it out. shift click this bone. Let's paint out what we don't want. That's the way you go about it. Just paint out the influence of what you don't want the bone influencing. Got plenty of other tutorials on it. In whites, smooth. This bone here. Make sure you click in the deform bones as well. Don't click the controls, which you can hide in your bone collection if you want the controls, if it's getting in your way a bit. There you go, we're just painting out what we don't want. Then whites, smooth. If you now go to pose mode, working local, that's nice and on axis. You'll see that that bone is influencing that part of the mesh. You can go into white paint, whites, smooth, whites, smooth. Just smooth it out a bit. That's going to bend and grab the baseball bat. Yeah. Select some more and go to Alt-R, Alt-G to reset. That's bending the elbow there. Alt-R, Alt-G. Let's look at this here. Move this up. Move the shoulder up a bit, and we can see that's influencing the head, which we don't want. We need to paint out. Remember to Control S to save. We need to paint out that, don't we? Because it's moving the head, and we don't want it to. Let's go to Rig Mesh, White Paint. Control Shift click the head. Weight to 1, strength to 1. Let's paint this head in fully. You can click that to see through. Remember, you can hide your rig if you want. You can see it more better. Unhide your rig. While we're at it, we need to paint in. We need to check the ears. So shift click the head, the ears seem to be in. Rig eye, white paint. Painting these eyes, see through to look in there. Select that eye, white paint, shift click the, Control shift click the head. And then also the nose, you want an 100% white. Paint the nose in. Be sure to click the see through thing so you can see through properly. Control S to save. And then we seen that was influencing the head, wasn't it? We don't really want it to. So let's shift click the head, white paint. Go down to our triangle. And use the arrow key to go through. Spine 5 is affecting the head, which is a neck bone, I believe. Don't really want it to. Set your weight to 0. Paint out your neck bone. Not really needed on this. But then what else is influencing it? Use your arrow, just go down and have a look. Something was affecting it, wasn't it? There you go, shoulder, L. Is affecting the head when the shoulder rotates. Don't want that to happen. Let's paint it out. That's all it is, rigging. It's a complex, hard subject, to be honest. When you start getting into constraints and drivers and stuff, we're not going to go in depth on this. A good thing is a lot of it's set up for you in Blender. So a lot of the process these days is just going in and white painting, really. So just go through and just check what's influencing that head. It seems to be just a head bone. So really now, when we go back into pose mode, Alt R and Alt G to reset everything. When we now move these arms, it's not influencing the head, is it? But it is there. It's influencing the eye still, and the nose. That's the thing with automatic weights. It'll latch onto things that it shouldn't. So what you've got to do now is the same process. Select the rig and the mesh, white paint. I like to go into there again, go through it with my arrow keys, see what's influencing the nose. The shoulder, look, influencing the nose. So it's painted out. There's no influence on it. Was anything else affecting it? Stay in white paint. Yes, look, there's something there. The shoulder, the other shoulder, them to have X on. Control S to save. I'm not sure if it's still in Blender 5, but you can. You used to be able to go into edit mode. If you go to A to select all, you can unassign things. Did you see that there? The assign and unassign. Assign and remove. You can do it that way as well. But I'm not 100% on what's influencing it. I usually stick to doing it in white paint mode. I usually use that method to assign, but not remove. So select your rig and your mesh, white paint again, and just spin through with your arrow. Spine 6, which is your head. Like shoulder. What's influencing it? Let's get that painted out. Let's just check this one. White paint. Spine. Yes, that's correct. Any others? Yeah, shoulder R is affecting it. Now when we go into pose mode now, move these shoulders. If you remove the white, it's not influencing anything it shouldn't. You need to go in and do that. Like this thumb, for example. Let's put it into a pose there. Let's go to white paint and check that. And let's paint out what we don't want it influencing. Don't really want the thumb influencing all round, do you? You only want it influencing that bit of a section there with a bit of a fall off. So just paint it out. White, smooth. Select that. Paint out what we don't want. White, smooth. Then this one. It's strange how the mesh is black now in Blender 5. Not sure if it used to be like that. Not sure if there's a setting or something that's white, smooth. Into pose mode, Alt-R, Alt-G, and just test the deformation. That's bending alright. Not perfect, but and then you'll want a bit of like on this head, for example, when that moves, you'll want a little bit of fall off on the clothing, for example. So when you select this head, set your weight to about the strength lower. When this head moves, you want this cloth to move a little bit as well. Which is what generally happens, isn't it? If you move your head, your jumper might move just a touch. Just a little bit of fall off, white, smooth. So now when you go to your head moves, the clothes are moving just a little bit to create a bit more realism on it. Alt-R, Alt-G to reset. So that's how you go about it. Let's have a look at the clothing. Generally, your spine, you don't have to do that much clean up on your spine. So that's not too bad, is it? When you're bending the spine, it's bending pretty decent. Always best to go in and do a bit of clean up on it. This is good for scaling. Looks like they're breathing. So maybe it's a little bit too much there, so you could go in and just unpaint a bit on there. So white paint, click your breastbone, adjust your weight and strength, and then just paint it out a bit. And white, smooth, and the influence area is this blue, green, and yellow area. The rest of this is just fall off. It's not going to influence or have very little influence that you can hardly see. If you go into pose mode and scale, you disable X. I'll say that that's your main area of influence there, isn't it? Look. Very painted and smooth. Always use smooth to smooth out the deformation. So let's just close that. And then we haven't got what you usually obviously have is your foot here, isn't it? We've just got clothing there now. But you should still have your foot roll there. So you've got your IK leg there. It's best to also go into there and just click your deform bounds and just do a bit of clean up on that so it's not influencing as much. I've got to have a sip of water. So you've clicked our foot bone, which as I say is usually should just be influencing like the toe area. But because she's got a skirt on, or he, or whatever Piggy is. It's influencing a bit much on there. So let's just paint out a few areas. I like to hide the rig as well at times, I can see what's what. Going in and painting out whites. You can use levels, but I generally use smooth. One hide your rig. Let's have a look at this one. Influencing a bit much. That's what you generally do. You put it into a bit of a pose, then you can paint your whites. You can also add a bit of white. You get a better deform. It's a bit of an awkward character, this, with the skirt. You can see what I'm trying to do. Just going in and painting or subtracting a bit of white to get a better deformation on it. Into pose mode. Alt R, Alt G. Have a look at this here. Remember, you can rotate this as well. You can also move it out to there. Move it to there. And again, just go into your white paint. Control Shift click the bone. And have a look what's influencing what. Probably a bit much up there. Just paint that out of it. White, smooth. That's how you go about rigging your character. Just going through and just checking how everything's deforming, basically. It's a long process at times. With a realistic character, it takes a hell of a long time. This is just a basic one. But that's how it works. So I'm going to go in now and I'm going to do a bit more white painting. Just to polish it up a little bit, and I'll come back and tell you what I've done on that. So I'm back on after cleaning this rig up. And it's just a case of setting your white nice and low and your strength low. For example, I've just posed that foot up there. Shift click this front here. You can see that's a bit messy how it's deforming. So just go in and just paint it like that. You smooth it out a little bit. So it's not as sharp then, is it? White's smooth. And that's what you're doing, just things like that. And like I say, it's a bit awkward when you haven't got the proper feet there. But that's what you want to be doing. Just putting it into a bit of a pose. See how it's deforming. And just paint accordingly. I just went in and moved these elbows up. Shoulder, sorry. And out. Like that. And just again, click your shoulder bone painting and out a bit of influence. Select your upper arm. I want to just paint it in a bit there so it influences a bit more. As I say, I have your X on there. Shoulder bone. Just think about anatomy when you move your shoulder bone. What's it going to move on the body? And just painting it out a little bit where you think it's going to influence it. That's how you go about it. It's a long hard road really. I Alt R, Alt G to reset. So yeah, that's how you go about rigging the character. Check everything's deforming right before you start your animation process. That should be able to grab the baseball bat alright. That's moving a bit. We'll be able to get a bit of leg movement in there. I think that is going to be the end of the rigging process. So let's look at what we got. We've got our Piggy rig folder there. Let's move our cameras and lights down there. Miscellaneous, just a generated rig, we can shut that. Piggy meta rig was our original. You can put that into the miscellaneous. And then we've got our main character message which we've binded. I think everything's pretty much ready to start the animation process now. We go into colour mode, we've got our materials applied. What you do want to do, you don't want to see all these controls. So you want to go in and hide what you're not going to use. We don't need our leg FK. I usually always use IK legs, pretty much 100% of the time. Leg tweaks, don't really need that. Turn that off. So there's a lot of controls here, makes it more confusing. Turn off your def bones once you finish white painting. See what's what route. Excuse me. Turn that off, don't need that really for now. Arm IK, we don't need our IK arms for now, so we can turn them off. Torso tweak, I generally turn that off. I'm not sure what these ones are here. Arm tweak L, you can turn that off. Arm L tweak and arm R tweak. Generally, that's your core controls which you'll need for animation. So by switching them off, it's not as confusing. So that's one thing I like to do. I like to have the head and neck follow on one. Like I says, when you bend the spine, that bends. So Control S to save that. I need to just do a bit of tweaking on the weights there, look. Where the elbows bending. White paint. As I say, I've turned off them def bones. We might need to do a bit of clean up on there. White paint. You paint it, bit of white. By painting it in a bit. If that doesn't work, you paint it out. Cleaning up the deformation a bit. If you hit smooth sometimes it'll destroy it a bit too much. Paint that out a bit. So you'll notice things all the way to the end really. You have to go in and fix stuff up a bit. Pose mode. Let's bend our hand. Not too bad. Alt R, Alt G. So that's going to be the end of the rigging process, that is. So what we'll do now, we'll start looking at the reference and start blocking this animation in next. It's going to be Piggy doing an attack. I think we'll have the bat in the right hand. So 180. We're going to constrain this bat to the hand. Let's just put that into the general water position. You want it. I need to just scale this bat a little bit. And you can grab it better then. Let's just move that from where there so we can grab it. And that, Control A all transforms to deltas. Make sure everything's nice and clean, which we did before rigging anyway. One-eyed rig. Next up, we're ready to start animating. So let's look into doing this simple little attack animation. Not going to be anything super exaggerated or anything. I've got my reference on my other monitor. What you can do, you can go to your movie clip editor and open the reference there to have it on your other monitor, but I'm not going to do that on this one. You can download it if you want, the reference. But let's think about the basic animation. What I've done there, I've constrained that bat to the hand. All you have to do is select your bat, your rig, go into pose mode, Control P, and go to bone to constrain the bat to the hand. So we've got our rig here. What I've also done is just moved the camera and light there. Camera and light, set that to 3000. We've got some basic lighting. We'll stay in animation. And we'll just start looking into a very basic attack animation just to show you how you go about it. So we've got our reference. A to select all. I like to be in the timeline to start with. Screencast keys if you want to see them. Got our epic pen. Turn on your auto key. For some reason I like to have wireframe. A to select all. I. Let's just create a basic pose to start with. I think what we'll do with our camera actually, we'll just have it face on. Like that. $1080 by 1920. I'll set my camera to. We don't want a key on this camera. Let's just delete that key. Control A all transforms to deltas. hide our camera. Back to pose mode. Let's create this very simple animation. So it's going to be I'm not sure what Piggy is, but he's going to be standing there. Let's bring the shoulder out there. Just bend this arm into a bit of a basic C-curve kind of shape. He could be maybe just have a fist. So we're just using rotator. So we need the same on this other side. I suppose we could have enabled X really and posed them both. But it will be a bit different because of the bat. You can use that to rotate all three axes. Just be aware you might get gimbal lock on that. Control S to save. He's going to be standing there. But this arm is kind of up here, and I've locked that. I've locked Y and Z there. Because generally, you can only bend your in one axis, can't you? On your arm, if you think about it. But you can unlock them, doesn't matter. Move this arm somewhere like. And let's have him just standing there. And the link's in the description if you want the reference for this. Download it for free. As I say, because we rushed on rigging, it's a little bit funky on the arm there. It's not 100% correct. Deformation. Bit of a bend in the elbow there. Sometimes it's awkward to see these controls. You could have him something like that. You can always tweak that a bit. You could have this 1 foot forward a little touch, and that one back. And maybe have that foot roll up a little bit. Hips. Have that going that way. And that. Maybe going that way a bit. And the head back that way. And looking up a bit. Just to say I'm the man. So that can be the basic starter pose, couldn't it? Just keep it simple. Maybe just push that out a bit. It's a very simple line of action. All down to what you think looks best. But only keeping it simple. Something like that. And then you could copy that, paste it there so it holds for half a second. Let's just set that to 100 for now. Then you could have a basic anticipation there. So he's going to anticipate back a little bit. I didn't exaggerate that in the reference. We could maybe go, make sure you select all the channels I like to. So, anticipate. I'm thinking And maybe up. Back and up a bit. Into the side. Bring the bat up a bit. It could go that way. This arm could move a little bit. And there. That's an anticipation, the second principle of animation. Anticipating back. You can twist the spine a little bit, if you want. Can't really see that coming through the floor. We can add a floor plane. It could be something like that, but maybe more to that side, maybe. Right. And let's just try somewhere around here. I. Anticipate and then swing. I'm going to swing for you now. So the hips will come forward, won't they? I'm just mimicking the reference I've got on my other monitor, exaggerating it a little bit. As I say, nothing not going to be super exaggerated. The body twists a little bit here. And maybe twist the spine. And obviously this bat, it's got to really come forward, hasn't it now? If he's swiping at you. Maybe still looking at you a bit though. So even though we're breaking the rig a little bit by pushing it, remember to control S to save. Awkward saying that. Awkward sometimes saying the controls. So the hip, so on the anticipation, it's gone up. And there, it's gone down, like whacking you. Bang. Still looking. We could create a bit of perspective with the camera there, couldn't we? Let's just try that for now. Needs to swing more, really, to the side. Bring them hips swinging a bit more. So we're really bending these hips and this spine, aren't we? Here? We need a bit more exaggeration, don't we, there? Needs to come there, and maybe that foot needs to come up a bit. So it's not the most satisfactory pleasing curve at the moment. And bang. It's the bat, really, isn't it, that needs to swing around. Let's really bring this bat round here. So around there. Then obviously I move this to say there. He's got to go over a bit more, as if he's really swiped. Let's bend this. Bend it more. Tips over. And that foot probably needs to come forward a bit to keep the balance. That foot could go forward a bit. Stepped. Or even though it looks a bit off balance and that, away from the camera view. What about what it's looking like in the camera view? That's a bit too much pushed, isn't it there? A bit broken there. We have to clean that up. The head swinging round a bit there. And he's got to come back now. We could just copy, paste there. Then here, eye. That's a little bit of drag. The head drags a little bit. We can overlap as he comes back. So I like the idea of this hand or arm coming back more. You're breaking that bone a little bit. You can see the anticipation more then. I think there we insert so try and exaggerate that back a little bit. Use your arrow keys to look at your other view. I'd say maybe think about the arc of the bat. So he could go out there, couldn't he? Going off camera. We can sort that. Control S to save. So it really like loops round a bit more. Bang. See what I mean? Like that. And you can move the white, which will move it in all three axes. Just be aware of your gimbal. And be aware you might want to clean it. You have to clean it up in the graph editor. You could have the head following there, couldn't we? And maybe really push this there. It's only a basic rig as well. You got to remember, you can't push it too far, and be aware you're in the same channel. You want to key everything in the same frame, sorry. So that'll think drag a bit more. Use your arrow key to flip the hips there. Hips more there. Coming back now. Let's just look at the arc of that bat. Arcs round. I think it should come up a bit. Oh, we are quite exaggerating the reference really. I mean, my kid told me it's just a simple arm movement in the game. I just wanted to exaggerate it a bit more. So, down. And think of the arc of the bat. So you get arc back up a bit. And then a bit more. So, it just takes time. I can't show you some perfect way of doing it in, hours really, let alone half hour. But that's how you go about animating. Analyse your reference. Think about the principles of animation. As you're blocking in your poses. I'm just thinking about the arc of the bat. It's arcing a bit, isn't it? And arcing back up as he brings it back. And then just dragging it a little bit. But it's not covering his eye, you see more the eye. And you could control this to save A, copy, paste. And as he goes back, it's a little overshoot. It goes like down, out a little bit, then settles back. For this one, will just be a little overshoot there before it settles back. And think about, as I say, drag. So dragging the head a bit more. So that's the golden poses. And you want to add more in betweens here. You might want to add one here to break it down a bit more. By adding some more drag. You could go to A, I. And drag this back a bit. Which is overlap. Think about the arc of the hips. So what you can do, you can hit F3 and go to calculate. And that will give you the path there. So see how that's straight between 12 and 18. What you could do, you could go A, I. And then in between these two, you've created a little arc there. People used to say you can't really see it, but you can feel it. It's there. Then maybe overshoot that. Exaggerate it up a bit more. It comes down. Try and follow a different arc. You could maybe do it up there, but we'll keep it down there. So yeah, push the arc down a bit. Maybe overshoot that a bit more as he comes back. Try and get a pleasing arc in there. Even there, you could go to A, I, select your root, and that's a little arc there, so it arcs up a bit before settling. And that's too much of a hard settle, isn't it? So go to pose. Where is it? Motion paths. You can clear it as well, and you can check your arcs on your hand. F3. So maybe here. F3. Calculate. You got your arc of your hand there. You do the same sort of thing. Get a nice pleasing arc in there. So that's how it works. But the most important thing before you start checking all your arcs and your slow in and slow out and stuff, check the timing. The timing's a bit slow, isn't it, really? Let's go to A. Go into your timeline, move your keys about. Oh, bang. It really, oof, like that. Then maybe come back quicker. So we don't need as many keys, do we, there? I think it needs to be even quicker there. So try that. Control S to save. Quicker. It's all about the timing and spacing is the most important thing with animation. Timing and spacing. Maybe you should come back quicker. So even though we blocked it, you're going to change your timing, you are, all the way to the end. Could we maybe have that anticipation a bit quicker? So we're really adjusting the timing, aren't we, there? Trying to see what feels right. Bang. Maybe faster still. Move these keys about. Have a look at a different view, see how it looks. Turn off your wireframe. Still feels a touch slow to me. We need to tweak some of the poses a bit. Push the arc a bit more. Bang. Just keep tweaking your timing. So maybe push the anticipation. A little bit more. That's what it's all about. That's what you got to do. Keep tweaking. Look at your pose there. It's a bit of a C curve, isn't it? The silhouettes. You can see a clear silhouette. That's pleasing. What we could do is tweak the camera in a bit more, couldn't we? So that bat maybe comes closer to the camera. You then think about, you have to probably pull back a bit. What you could do, example, you could go to frame 1, set a key on it, hold it, and as the bat goes there, you could maybe move the camera. Things like that. That's probably a bit much, but you could put a little shake on the camera, couldn't you, as the bat comes round. I'm just thinking out loud, I suppose, kind of thing here. Sort of as if he's hit you, so bang. That's just another idea. I'll do that in polish, but let's look at back to this pose and just look at the timing again. For now, we'll just set the we'll keep the camera neutral for now, so we're not complicating stuff. But that's how you go about it. Keep him in frame. Delete the key. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to do some polish on this character. And what you want to do is do it along the lines of what we done on the beginner's course, where you go into your graph editor here. You've got all your keys in place. So you want to go in and work on the most important thing of the lot, the graph editor is. I like to work on my location first. So I used to use another monitor. My graph editor, but I use the same monitor now. Go in, bring up your curves, location. Let's look at, you could move that to there so it hits a little bit after, and adjust your handle. If you go into there and select I, all channels, slow out, another principle of animation, so slow out. Work on your hips first. Get your hips right. Most important is to get a solid root on your character to start with. So overshoot that a bit. There's your Z. So you're holding it for a bit more. could move that to there. Just a case of doing things like that, tweaking your curve, see what feels good as it comes down here. Maybe push that. So it hits earlier. Push it down more. And then comes back up. We're looking at the Y there. And down. You could maybe have, if you hold X, the Y could settle last. And the X there. Everything's not settling at the same time. So that's how you go about animating. And you'll tweak your timing all the way to the end. You might think you want it a bit faster. You can move the keys again, like we did in the timeline. Just look there, let's instead of having it flat, let's start going into the curve, so slowing out. This is your 6th principle of animation. So we've covered a lot of the principles of animation here on that basic blockout. If you think about it, you've got, it's not really a principle of animation as such, but you've got a clear silhouette. You can see what's going on. So that should be more of a C curve there. But you've got a clear silhouette. You've got him an anticipation, haven't you there? Which is principle 2 of animation. We looked at our arcs, didn't we? As the bat comes round, it's arcing. We looked at timing, which is another principle of animation. I'm blank now, I don't know if it's principle 8 or 9, but timing. We've exaggerated it, haven't we? So if you look at the reference, it's fairly linear and there's not much there, but there, you've really exaggerated that pose, haven't you? You could curve that arm round more. That's more of an exaggerated pose. We've covered a lot of the principles here of animation. And once you've got it blocked in, all about the graph editor. Some people aren't 100% keen on it. That's how a proper animator works, that is, with the graph editor. So even though this animation has been quite rushed, it's not perfect by any stretch. It's showing you the techniques that you need to use every time. Fundamentals. So look at this here. Let's bend it around more. Instead of it going, so you wouldn't have come across that if you wouldn't have gone in the graph editor. That should be more fluid. Have a pleasing curve to make it more fluid. Have it slowing there. And maybe hold X. Drag that. Delete that one, drag that. Move that up a bit. Move your Y. Nice fluid looking curve. Have that Y hit a little bit after. You might not like the head. But generally, you don't use location for the head. Hide what you don't want. I prefer him looking a bit more. I do, yeah. Just have him looking at you a bit more instead. See how it looks. So that eye's staring at you, isn't it, there? If you delete, you can delete keys in the graph editor. That feels more fluid. He's looking at you with that eye. Still looking a little bit more. Move them curves around. And then you'll go into your, for example, your shoulder. You've got to go through all the controls. Then look at your shoulder control. Hide stuff with the eye. Start by looking at your location. I like to. Let's look at your location. Hit the location there. See what it's doing. It's coming up. There. That is going to come more forward as the arm comes forward. You're always thinking about how things would happen. The inertia of things. You don't really want that to lock out. You want to keep it flowing unless you're doing a moving hold or something. It gets these nice curves in your graph editor. You want a bit of a better arc on that bat. Because if you look there, example, to there, it's pretty linear, isn't it? I think about adding an arc to it instead. And people from Pixar, when I learnt on my animation mentor course, always said that the most important things with animation, arcs, spacing and timing, the most important things of the lot. Even though everything's important, those three, arcs, spacing and timing, I still feel myself to this day the most important. So what I'm going to do now, I've shown you how to go about the graph editor, the most important thing. I'm going to go in and do a bit of polish myself on this animation, and I'll come back. I'll tell you what I've done on the polish, what sort of things I've fixed up and changed, and hopefully this animation will look a little bit better. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, so I'll just bring you back for this end, show you what I've done. You press play. You can see I've tightened up the timing. Added a bit of a retro blood scratch when he hits, and the camera shakes when he hits, kind of what you see in games. And the main things I've done, I probably spent about 40 minutes this time. I usually duck out for about 5 to 10 minutes and do a bit of tweaking. I've spent about 40 minutes this time. And, you know, these tutorials are going on for quite long. But, you know, when you look at it, I'm trying to pack in so much stuff. It's hard to show all that in 30, 40 minutes. I don't want to go longer than 3 hours on these tutorials, because it's just too long. So, what did I do then? Well, let's just look at the animation first. And like, for example, on this Y location, as he goes back, there's some settle, isn't there? So he goes back, forward, and back forward again. So as he comes back, it's not a dead stop. So his body's settling. So he swipes, comes back, settles forward, back forward. That's what you want to be doing, things like that. For example, we talked about the arc, didn't we? So there's an arc on this bat here as it goes through. Arc, which is principle number 7. So I've done that. And I've done that basically by raising the shoulders and working on the curves. Always look for a nice sort of pleasing curve in your animation. Slow into stuff, slow out. So bang. Bump. on this arm here, for example, I've gone into the X. So it's far from perfect, so we haven't got forever. There's a bit of settle on the arm, doesn't just come to a dead stop. So as his arm goes into a, like, the elbow breaks there, doesn't it? And he comes back and drags a bit, overlap. If you look at his chest and his head, it's offset a little bit. There's the head, so there's the curve of the upper chest and then the head. But that is creating some drag. So it's a case of going through all your curves and all your controls and polishing stuff. I mean, that's exaggeration as well. If you look at the reference, that's really exaggerated going back compared to the reference. He goes from his initial pose and he's really exaggerating his bat back. If you look at the reference, it's only something like there. So that's another point. We've implemented things like anticipation, principle 2, arcs, secondary action. And it's not so much in an animation perspective per se for that, but the eye. If you go into lit mode, his eye's lighting up. That's a bit of a secondary action, isn't it? We've implemented principle 10, as I just explained there, exaggeration. As he goes back, he's exaggerating it. We've really exaggerated as he comes forward. So the reference is not like that. This is really exaggerated. And it's exactly what it is. It's just reference. And we've exaggerated that C curve example there. All these things. Now we got principle 6 with slowing in and out as he comes back there. He's slowing in a bit and then slowing out. So we're implementing all these principles of animation into this. And a lot of that's achieved by tweaking and polishing your curves to get a pleasing curve. For example, as the head comes back, we're dragging this head. And that's a sub-principle of overlap, drag is. Things will always drag. The head's dragging and settling. We just did the timing. Which I timing, it's 9 or 10, I think. I think it's 9. Timing. I kept tweaking that all the way to the end, the timing. If you look, it feels quite nice that time. It could be even faster. But there he is. Bang. 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 I might add like a pig, like snort, like a kind of thing as he attacks. What else have I added apart from animation? Well, I've added the infinite background there. So if we go into lit mode, turn our lights on, you got your infinite background playing, far from perfect. And I've also added a little backlight there. So if you turn that backlight on, you can see a bit of a rim light appearing there, can't you? And that's just, so we've just got our basic light. Lighting's far from perfect on this, I've just kept it simple. That's the light we got when we fire up Blender. I've just added 170 power to a spotlight which is being fired at the side of his head there. Which gives you, say, your little rim light there. You could set up 3-point lighting as well. It should make it more realistic. What else did I add? I added this blood here. So as the attacks, you get your blood scratch that you used to get in retro games. Being an 80s kid, I used to love that. You can see that little settle on the bat, little settle on the hand there. I added a camera shake as well. If you go into camera, you right click and set your interpolation to linear. This gives more of a harsh shake on the camera. So scratch and a shake on the camera. You could add a bit more side to side, but I've just done it in Z up and down. So that, I think, is everything. I'm never going above 3 hours because it's too much. And I apologise for how long they're going on. I'm fitting in that much detail into this, trying to jam pack it with everything. But you know, I added the emission to the so the eye lights up. And you just do that by keying your emission. We've done that in other tutorials. If we go into lit mode and hit F12, that's our basic render. So as I say, lighting's not perfect, but it does the job. Got a little bit of a, let's have a look at that there, but a few little things probably to tweak still, but in the most part that's done really. We've modelled, rigged, textured and animated Piggy, so we've done quite a lot in this lecture. I've shown you quite a lot of the techniques. I think that, guys, is going to be the end of this one. And that blood's just a basic cube. And I keyed the alpha. If you look at the alpha there, that just goes from 0 to 1 back to 0. Just like a retro scratch on the screen. So that's going to be everything, and that's Piggy. All done. Yeah, so we're all done. The last thing I've done, you can download the sound if you want. I've just added a sound strip, Piggy Snort. You add that to the video sequencer. So as he attacks, he snorts. So it's not the nicest sound, but he's a pig after all. So that's it then, guys, for this one. And shall see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Peace.